Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This is Scott Buckholtz. It is Saturday. Oh my gosh, August 21st. August is almost come and gone. Can you believe it? It is amazing. Again, this is Scott Buckholtz. I am one of the hosts for these live Zoom property tours. We do them every Saturday where we come out and feature one of our fellow community investors from somewhere in the country. Today, I've got the privilege, the honor. I'm so fired up and excited to share with you Tamara Brook. Tamara's featured one of her deals before on our Saturday tours, but this is something new, and I'm excited to bring her out here in just a second. Again, I just want to go over a little housekeeping. We want to keep everybody on mute, guys. So please keep your microphones on mute. And that way it'll help with background and it won't interfere with Tamara's presentation today and all the cool things she's going to share with us. We do want to make it interactive. So if you're in the chat room, you'd like to type some questions as we get through the property tour, maybe more like 2/3 through it, we'll start answering some of those questions. Tamara will also go over numbers with you on this because everybody's always excited to see the numbers because this business is a numbers business. And if the numbers don't work, you don't do the deal. So again, my name is Scott Buckholtz. I'm a full-time real estate investor. If there are some new folks on today that might not know who I am, I found this community of investors over 5 years ago. Actually, I've known Tamara for 4 or 5 years as well. But I found this community and I was coming away from the corporate world, the W-2 life, as we call it. And I'd only worked for 2 companies my whole adult life, which today is unheard of. I was very proud of that. And then one day I got the call from HR that my department was getting downsized. And so it was a true blessing. At the time, it didn't feel like a blessing. It was like a punch in the stomach. But after a lot of praying and my wife and I looking at everything, and me always wanting to be a real estate investor, it was time to take the plunge. And I'm so honored that I'm so proud that and gracious that I found this community of investors because I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I'm currently doing 9 separate transactions right now, 9 different deals. I also have rental properties. I do real estate in Kentucky, Ohio, and Kansas. I live in Northern Kentucky, which is just south of the river there in Cincinnati. I am currently in Kansas, checking up on my rental properties and making sure we have a 9-unit, me and my partners have a 9-unit apartment building that we're rehabbing, that we're starting to tenant. And so I'm here checking on all that. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Tamara out. Tamara, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Scott. Always fun to collaborate and hear all the great things you're doing. And yeah, man, you've really picked up momentum since we've met a couple years ago, and it's been really cool to see your progress and inspiring. So awesome. Well, good stuff. Good morning, everyone. Excited to be here with you guys. I have to tell you, doing slides is not really my thing, so these are a little outdated. But just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I come from the fashion and entertainment industry. I love what I was doing. I had some great opportunities. I got to work with the Yankees, Stella McCartney, just to name a few. However, I found myself working really long hours, achieving someone else's goals and not having time to achieve my own. So that got old very quickly. So fast forward, I accidentally stumbled into this community. I was looking for investors, but little did I know that this opportunity was really what was looking for me, and it really changed my life over the past few years. And I'm so grateful. I don't know where I'd be in life without it. So this is outdated, but to give you an update, I did go back to school. I got my master's, but I found myself in the same situation. I've completed about 13 deals now, everything from single family homes, rentals, short-term rentals, buying land, done a few fix and flips. And think that's it right now. Rentals, yeah, I mentioned that. And then I have the opportunity to be a PIP member, which means I get to help grow and expand this business while advising the CEO on a regular basis. So it's been an amazing experience and a life-change experiencing for me. I have the ability to work anywhere in the world. Now, prior to COVID, I had the ability to, I've worked literally all over the world, from Europe to the Middle East. And that's the beautiful thing, right? I now live life on my terms and have created a life by design, not default, right? A lot of us are living a life in default, whether we realize it or not. I know I was. And when I started to get myself financially educated through some of the classes and through some of the things you're going to learn here today, I realized, wow, we're really duped. We're really living a life of default. And that's what we're taught, right? So when you start to get the right knowledge, that's when you see that there's a better way to do life. And hopefully this is a small portion of this will start to open your eyes a little bit. So, and shout out to Ron for making me these slides. So, and you can see in that picture, I was in Jerusalem right before the pandemic. It was my second to last trip. So prior to the pandemic, I was traveling the world while running my business. Now I'm a little bit more low key until this whole thing blows over. But anyway, so a quick disclaimer, there's no guarantees with what we do, right? We give you the tools, we provide you with the support, but at the end of the day, your success is solely up to you. And that's something you'll learn. You have to start taking responsibility for your life, for your results of your life. And hopefully you learn that through us. I know when I was in the corporate world, everything was, I was a little bit of a victim, not intentionally, but I expected things to happen for me. You know, but since becoming an entrepreneur, I've learned how to take responsibility for my life. All right, so I landed into short-term rentals. Now, prior to COVID, I was getting ready to kind of start a short-term rental business. I had one going and literally had, and this was in Philadelphia, I had a pen in my hand to sign a lease or a contract for 3 more, but I decided not to because I didn't know what was going to happen with COVID and just a lot of uncertainty. So now that we kind of get a little bit of feel for what's going on, I decided to get back into it. So this was one of the first short-term rentals I got into since deciding to start the short-term rental business again. The picture on the right has to be updated, but here, so I landed into this short-term rental, kind of, it fell into my lap a little bit. So I spent some time in Florida through the pandemic. I'm back in New York now, but I kind of split up my time because I don't like the cold weather. So, and I was in Tampa and I was looking for, and I was starting to look at short-term rentals, and I was also looking for an apartment for myself. I stumbled into this, I looked at about 3 short-term rentals, and what's great is we have a system that gives you the knowledge as to how to find, you know, short-term rentals. It literally lays out a blueprint plan as to what to look for, right? So when I looked at 2 prior to this one, I walked into this apartment and I just knew it was what I wanted. I didn't have to really tour it. The owner was with me and I said, where do I sign up? I'm in. And I really love this apartment. It's such a gem. Honestly, it was so hard for me to leave when I was setting it up. So there's a balcony. You'll see a little bit more pictures in a second. There's a balcony that overlooks this beautiful deck. The water is stunning. It's a very zen place. And that's one of the things I named it on the Airbnb ad that I have, is like Oasis. And it really is. So these pictures are a little bit old because I got professional pictures taken since I got these. I just haven't changed it yet. And the pictures are very important. I would actually never put up these pictures in an Airbnb ad. The pictures will, one of the things that you learn in the Jay Massey's Airbnb class and also in Hugh's class is that the pictures will make or break it, right? During the slow seasons, like you could lose tons of money if you don't have the right pictures. So these are a great example of what not to use on your ad, because the lighting's off. That's not a great representation of the bedroom. I've gotten new stuff in there too. But
Tamara, what do they say about pictures? They're worth what, 1,000 words?
Yeah, or $1,000.
Hey, Tamara, tell us why you got, you come out of corporate America, you had a wonderful job, you love what you did, you love what you were doing, you got to build a lot of great relationships, you got a lot to meet, hang out with a lot of neat people, you got to be really creative in what you were doing, and then you found real estate investing. But why, since you're talking about short-term rentals, why did short-term rentals appeal to you? And why should, because there's a lot of people out there, Tamara, right now that they hear Airbnb and they hear vacation rental by owner and home away, and there's like over 100 platforms of how to find short-term rentals or someplace to stay when you travel for business or vacation. But what incentivized or kind of pushed you into short-term rentals? What was the key thing?
Sure. So one of the things that you want to understand when you become a real estate investor is understanding your investor ID, meaning I already knew from the start that fix and flip is not my investor ID. I like the concept of it and I like some things about it, but I don't want to deal with contractors. And to me, it's like a paycheck. You got to be there every day. You got to manage things. Like, it's a job in my perspective, and maybe some not so much, but like if you're depending on your fix and flip. So the reason I picked short-term rentals is because it aligns with my investor ID perfectly. I love the fact that I can still be creative with it. I enjoy hosting people. There's a hospitality aspect to that. So it's really right down my realm in terms of my investor ID, and I like the cash flow. So, I really like the cash flow at the end of the day. So this short-term rental, and again, these pictures were kind of before I have gotten it done. I upgraded everything, but this is in Tampa. I really love this short-term rental. It's got a Zen feeling to it. I've since then, and I apologize, these pictures aren't completely updated, but this is the kitchen. You'll see a different perspective of it. I kept it very simple for a couple of reasons, because the apartment has a feel to it that you don't need to make it. Like, I didn't feel the need to put a lot into it because there's a very peaceful feeling to it. And I wanted to keep that ambiance for people when they walk in, so they have that experience of the Zen feeling. So there's 2 bedrooms. This is pretty small, and I've had a great run with this so far. There definitely have been a few hiccups, which I've learned because I'm not in Florida right now and I won't be back there for a couple more months. So, one of the things you have to do if you're going to manage a long-term rental is a long distance rental, which I wouldn't recommend for your first short-term rental, is you have to have a system in place where you have to have people that can go there regularly. Like, I have a really good cleaner, but and I'm fortunate that it's worked out well like that. But it's much easier to just be like, I got to jump in my car and drive 10 minutes and update something, rather than be like, I got to call someone to go over there and figure out the right person. Like, it's just easier to manage it if it's closer to you, especially if you're just starting out in short-term rentals. But I've figured this out. I mean, this is definitely the furthest I've been from one of my short-term rentals. And it's worked out. I mean, I've definitely had some moments where I had to think out of the box to get some problems resolved, but it's all worked out. And so one of the things that you'll learn in our short-term rental class is to know who you're catering to. So for this short-term rental, I actually wanted to see who it would attract. I had a family. What I like catering to professionals who are traveling, because they're just, my last short-term rental before COVID that's who I was catering to. And for me, it was very easy because that's who I am, really. So I knew what I needed when I travel. So it was easier for me to set it up in a way that, it was easier for me to accommodate those kind of people because I knew what I look for when I travel, right? I will tell you, I've had all good reviews except for one, and I'll tell you why in a second. So reviews are very important. Right now, my rating is a 4.6. It was a 4.8 or 4.9. I had one, and most people have been great. Who I've ended up catering to, who this tends to attract, are young couples and families, which has been great. I really like catering to them as well. They've had a great experience so far. The only person who didn't here's the thing, you can tell how people communicate with you, how they're going to be as a guest, right? Because if they're very communicative and if they're inquiring about specific details of the short-term rental, I can, and asking questions, I can almost tell they're going to be a little bit of a pain from the beginning, because they're already picky and they haven't even gotten there yet, right? So, but some people, like this guy, the last review I got, he was so easy. He was there for business. Now that's not super common in where I have the short-term rental because it is a vacation town, but he was there for business. He was great. In fact, he was so communicative and so appreciative and grateful for all the things that, like, he was there, and just really good person to host. And then same with the person before it. So I blocked out their names for privacy reasons, but and I think it was Andre or something. He came with his family and he messaged me. He was super low key, because I always send a quick message to people just so I can get a feel for who's going in, because the building that I have it, the short-term rental in, very quiet area. And I want to make sure, that's important when you're doing lease arbitrage, which is what I've done with this, meaning I don't own this one. I just control the lease. So I just manage the apartment for the owner. The building is very low key. The neighbors did not like that I was doing Airbnb in here when they figured it out. And sorry, but like, it's just, you know, they've gotten used to it because they've seen that there's been no problems, and people, but I am very particular. I try to be kind of particular about who I let in. Now that's not always that easy with Airbnb, because people are allowed to just book it, but the way I word things will only attract a certain person, right? I put like kind of keywords like quiet, neighborhood, and like someone coming to party is not really going to be looking for a quiet neighborhood. Like, and you can see what this guy wrote on the review, close to the beach, perfect for a family getaway, very quiet and relaxing. And that's what I'm catering to. And, you know, great stay, thank you. You know, the last two people I had were great guests to host, and I would always welcome them back. The one person,
Tamara, you talked about lease arbitrage.
Sure.
So, you know, as a real estate investor like you are, you know, this is what I do for my life. This is, besides my family, my friends, my church, I'm a full-time real estate investor. So I talk to people every single day and share what I do. Like this morning, I've been to 2 different places here in Kansas, and the conversation came up both places. So one of the things I constantly hear, Tamara, is that, oh, I want to get into most people call it Airbnb because they don't understand, you know, the platform of short-term rentals. So they'll go, oh, I want to get into Airbnb. I've heard that I could rent out my basement, or I heard I could rent out my other bedroom, or, you know, stuff like that. And then I get on the other side though, Tamara, I get people going, well, I don't have the money to buy a house or to buy a condo or a townhome. And so the strategy you're using, you've actually acquired and you've learned how to have a conversation to actually get a lease signed where the landlord or the owner knows that you're using it for short-term rentals. How did that come about? How are you able to have that conversation? Because I think a lot of people stumble with that in their head. It's like a block. It's like a mind block. Like, oh, I'll never be able to find a property that I could rent or put under a lease and then short-term rental it. How did you come up with that, or how did you do that?
Yeah, and you kind of nailed it, Scott. People really do have a block in their head about, and I'll look at the chat in a few minutes about that conversation. And I did too, but like the best way to overcome that is just have the conversation. So literally our class, it makes it so easy. Literally, Jay Massey gives you a script, and I don't deviate from the script. Listen, that guy has this dialed in. Why would I make my own mistakes when he tells me everything to do, everything to say? Boom. So I don't deviate from the script that Jay Massey gives us. It's very easy. It's just easy. So I just copy the script that he gave us in the class, and that's it. That's the simple answer.
So so Jay, you've mentioned his name several times. So Jay Massey is not only a community member, but he's also one of our instructors, and he is one of the experts in short-term rentals. He's been very successful. He's got a very proven track record. I mean, he's got this down to. Have you ever opened up a box? Like, I just recently built a little bake-up vanity for my wife, and I opened up the box, you know, and it had like 20 pieces of legs and drawers, and then it had all these bags of nuts and washers and bolts and screws. You guys all know what I'm talking about? That's how easy Jay makes it, right, Tamara? It's like here's the washer, here's the nut. You put the washer and the nut on a number 8 bolt or whatever. Isn't it that easy, or that's simple to follow? Let's call it that way, simple to follow, right?
It really is. And what did you said something. I'm pretty sure last time I heard, I believe he was clearing, I want to say something around $70,000 a month on his short-term rentals, if not 6 figures by now.
Yeah, I heard it was myself. I heard it was upper 60s that he's clearing a month. Now, when I say clearing, that's nets, guys. That's a big number. That's a big number. And you're not going to go out tomorrow and do that. I mean, I love, Tamara, that you shared in the beginning about the disclaimer. I mean, what we do is not rocket science, but it is hard work. It is commitment. It is time. And you can build up to it. Just like she suggested, Tamara said, hey, I wouldn't go out and if you live in Ohio, I wouldn't do your first short-term rental in Tampa. Okay. You need to get a system down. You need to get an infrastructure down. You need to get your knowledge and your relationships built. But I am so excited that you're down in Tampa, because what you don't know, I'll have to tell you afterwards. I'm not going to share anybody else about Tampa, but I love that area. So this is very cool. Keep rolling. You're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. So where was I going? Yeah, so it's been fun. I will hit that. I will stress that point. Don't do a long, hold on. Don't do a long distance short-term rental. I mean, you can, but you're definitely going to run into some issues that will be a lot easier to deal with if you're close to it. So I will tell you about the one guest that I had that gave me a bad review. Now, reviews are very important, because when you're running a short-term rental, for me, I stay in a lot of short-term rentals and Airbnbs, and I will hit on another point after this. Don't let me forget. It's why I only choose to list on one platform and not 10, because there are a lot of options out there. But so this guest, so he came, he messaged me, and he was looking for a place to do work. Now, I don't really have it set up for a place to do business, but I've done my work out of here. When I was getting this place set up, I would, jump on and do some things, but it's designed specifically for vacation, not really to go out, go there to do work. And like it's not built for someone that wants to go and do work. And I kind of said that to him, but he seemed to really like it. And I'm very transparent in my post, because I don't want any surprises. I want people to know exactly what they're getting into, because that avoids having bad reviews, right? So like it's a 5 or 10 minute walk to the beach. Like, I'm very transparent. And Jay in our class says, it's not a guessing game. You want to keep it very simple for people so they know what they're getting into, right? And you want their expectations to be met versus when they read the ad to when they get there in real life. So this guy didn't read the ad, because if he did, he would know it wasn't going to be a good fit for him. So he was planning on being there and working for a week. Now, I don't have, there is you can work out of the living room, but it's just not designed for that. So he didn't read the ad, and then he complained about everything being far away, but I put very specifically, it's best if you have a bike or have a rental car. Otherwise, if you're going to plan on being out and about, you have to have one of the two. And I put that in the ad. He complained that it wasn't close to anything. So all of my reviews are great. And everyone says close to the beach. And it is close to the beach. It's walking distance to the beach, close to coffee shop. It's walking distance to coffee shop. You've got this one guy who complains that it's not close to everything. I mean, and here's the thing with short-term rentals, you're going to get those people. You can't please everyone. There's always going to be that one person that complains about everything. And he was that one person. So unfortunately, I had a great rating, and then he pulled it down, which is fine. It'll knock off, I think, in a few months. And then I also contacted Airbnb, and I said he didn't read my ad, because everything he complained about is not, it's written in the ad if he would have read it. So anyway, yeah, that's that. So yeah, and that's the thing. You're just always going to have that one person, and that's fine. I had another lady prior to this. Again, I could tell the kind of guest she was going to be, because she would ask me every single question under the sun. And I said, please read the ad. It's all in there. All the questions she was asking me, like, that's the thing. People just don't, I don't know, they don't read it, which doesn't make any sense to me. Because I read everything. I read before I book Airbnbs, because I want to know what I'm getting into. She didn't read any of it. So when she got there, and again, I am very intentional with my short-term rental, and there's a very, like, I like to keep it simple for this one, because it's such a, the ambiance is so relaxing when you get there. And that's what I like to create, that feeling for people, because you're on vacation, right? So she complained about not having enough furniture. She complained about this. And some things, actually, I have to say, I did add some things because of some of the stuff that she voiced. She didn't give me a bad review. She just said it would have been a little bit nice. She said it would have been nice if you add a couple things. And I did actually add a few things, but she knew what she was getting into, because I'm very transparent about what, you know, how what I put in the short-term rental. So if she wanted more furniture or more of whatever, she could have booked another place that had more of what she wanted. So people are people. You're going to get that in any short-term rental. But I keep this way, and the people who read the ad have a great experience. So it's the ones that haven't read it that I've run into problems with. But anyway, so the other thing, and I forgot the point. What was I going towards? Oh, I keep my my listing. So you can list on like 10 different places, but I don't feel the need to. So my intention in getting this short-term rental was so I can get back into it before I scale up, because I do plan on scaling up quite a bit with short-term rentals, but I wanted to get myself acclimated again to running short-term rentals, and like just used to the problems and all that stuff. And eventually I'm going to get a person to manage all this stuff for me, an assistant, a virtual assistant. But right now I want to go through the problems first, so I know what to expect. So I personally like to deal with things before I hand them off to someone else, so I know, you know, what they can expect, and how to deal with it. But right now I really enjoy running these short-term rentals. I like the quote unquote problems that you deal with. You're always going to deal with problems, and that's our job as real estate investors. And you just have to figure out what problems you like to deal with. Like Scott likes to deal with the problems of fix and flips. You know, personally, they stress me out a little bit more. This is easy to me. I enjoy this, you know, because again, I know my investor ID. I know what my skill set is, and this is down my skill set. So I just find I think listing it on multiple platforms is not necessary. I just don't find it necessary. I find it to be more work than you need to do. Like, why complicate things? Just keep it simple. And Airbnb just has this dialed in. They run a really good business. So I have chosen to just keep it on Airbnb. Maybe you'll get to a point where you need to list it on multiple places. Maybe during the slow seasons, I'm not sure yet, but I find it just easier to keep it on one platform. And I know Airbnb, for me, it's been easy to use. I like the business they run. So I don't find a need to list it on multiple platforms, at least not at this point. The one thing I've learned about Tampa is I think this is the slow season, because my other short-term rental would book out for like a month in advance. And during the slow season, I'm from Philadelphia, so I knew what to expect a little bit more. I didn't know seems to be a slow season because there's all these storms coming in. So and I'll go over the numbers in a second, but it's ranged, and I think it's ranged for me. I've cash flowed somewhere between $400 and $1,000. And this month has been the slowest month I've had. It's still booking out on the weekends, but there's all these storms, and there's also red tide, which red tide was not something I was thinking about because I'm in New York. I don't think of red tide. So there's a couple things that that's important. Know your market, right? I did this on a whim a little bit, to be honest. This apartment just fell in my lap, and I was like, this is an opportunity. I'm going to take it. But know your market. It's really important to understand like all the things that happen in Florida, right? So being from Philly, being from cities, I don't think so much about stuff like that, but this has taught me how to think like that. So red tide, there's been a couple storms, which thankfully, again, it hasn't really slowed anything. It hasn't stopped. Every month I've hit my costs. This month we'll see. I'm like $200 away from hitting my cost. So I'll hit my cost, but I don't think there's going to be a huge profit this month. And that's going to be in every market. There's going to be slower months. You just have to know what the slower months are. And of course, Florida has hurricane season. So that's when people travel a little bit less, but I've done the research, and I think the next month or two is when the snowbirds start to move into Florida. So I expect to pick up a lot more in the next month. And like every Airbnb, every area is going to have some off months. And, you know, it's just important that you understand that going into it, so you can prepare cost-wise for the slower months. So these are the reviews. The most recent ones I've had have been great. And the other thing, yeah, it'll come to me in a second. So we kind of already started to hit on the knowledge that I got this from. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with our community, we've got multi-million-dollar real estate investors that are out there, like Jay Massey, for example. He's running somewhere between a $70,000 and $100,000 a month business for short-term rentals. So I learned from him exactly how to do this. Also, we have 3 different courses, which if you haven't been exposed to our community, you will later. The more knowledge you have, you heard me talk about living a life by default or design. These classes are going to teach you how to live life by design, right? They're going to teach you how to pay less in taxes. They're going to teach you how to pay down debt in a quicker time period. So I'm going to start using that strategy on some of my rentals. But the class that I specifically used for this was negotiations, right? Because with the owner, and I got along very well with the owner very quickly. We just connected. It was easy. There wasn't a lot of negotiating. I just said, well, I did negotiate $100 down because I want, and the date as to when I moved in, and a couple little things throughout the lease. In fact, they sent me the lease. Here's a couple things that you'll learn is, like, in the lease, I wanted, there was a couple specific things I wanted on the lease. Like I wanted my business name. I wanted, I don't remember anymore, but there's a few specific details that I wanted to negotiate in the lease, and I wouldn't sign it until they changed it. So I wanted to make sure that they said it was okay, that in the lease that I did Airbnb and short-term rentals, because I don't want any surprises later down the line. So they verbally said, sure, you can use it as a short-term rental if you choose to, but they didn't put it in the lease. So when they sent me the lease and that wasn't in there, I had to send it back to them 2 times to make sure that they put that in there. And they did. They were great with that. It's just I would not sign the lease until they had that in there. So I did use the negotiations. I got the apartment for $100 under what they were asking for on the market. So negotiations is an awesome course. I used that. And of course, these are the short-term rental classes that I took with Jay Massey that explained everything. And man, that guy is really, really down to a T with what he's doing, right? And like, the more I've run the short-term rental, I'm like, oh, Jay Massey told me that. Oh, like to be honest, I was a little lazy in the beginning about getting the pictures taken, the professional pictures. I was like, it won't be a big deal. And then I retook the short-term rental class day 3, and I was like, crap, the pictures look terrible. I gotta retake them, right? So I got professional pictures taken, but my first Airbnb, I took the pictures myself, and I just was kind of fine with it. But it does make a difference. The professional pictures, the lighting is immaculate when they do it the right way, and they really, like, it sets, when you do things the way Jay lays it out to be, it sets your Airbnb aside from the rest. And like, one of the things he says, like, one of my concerns was it's a very saturated market that I'm in this part of Tampa. Like, there's tons of short-term rentals, but he says it's never saturated when you do things the way he lays it out, right? Because you're going to beat the competition all day. And that's so true, right? That's something I will always stress now, is making sure it's like, it's $100, $70 to get professional pictures taken. And that $70 will be the best $70 you spend, because it really will help you make like thousands of dollars. It can be the difference of $1,000, a couple $1,000, making or not making it, because people decide they see your pictures, and your pictures are very specific towards, they're very intentional. So I love that about the short-term rental classes. They really, again, he just lays out to a T exactly what you should be doing. Like, you can't go wrong. I mean, there's a couple little things that I didn't change a lot. There are a couple things I changed where I do have Ring. I think he suggests something else that I didn't like for the security cameras. I have Ring. It just, for me, is a little bit more user-friendly. I'm not super into technology, so Ring was a little bit easier for me. So, okay, cool. I'm gonna just look at the chat real fast. Okay, I'm gonna go over the numbers. So red tide, Alvin, I don't know. It's like some poison that comes in, like, to the water. Yeah.
I can explain that, Tamara, if you'd like.
Sure.
So real quick, just red tide, and I learned a lot more about it here recently, because my wife and oldest daughter and grandkids went down to Gulf Shores recently for vacation, and they didn't know much about red tide, and they went down during red tide. And basically, there's a certain type of algae that grows in the Gulf, and it has a very toxin chemical in it. And that toxin literally pollutes the water, which kills the fish. And that's why, if you've seen any pictures online, or if you've ever been down in that area during red tide, you see tons of dead fish on the beach, or you'll see, like, in a marina, you'll see like thousands of them just laying in the water. That's being caused by a terminology called red tide. So it doesn't happen all the time, but it has been red tide down there. So, but no. And then Robert also asked about if you could share the current listing on the browser. I just recommended Robert to send you a message on Facebook, Tamara.
Yeah,
and you
sure.
could, if you want to give him the link there, you can. If it's Tiana is asking if you pay your rent in advance, or do you so you're just like a rental customer to this landlord, correct?
So
you
yeah,
pay your so you pay your rent just like if you were living there.
exactly. So every month, like on the 1st, I pay the rent. Like,
Right.
exactly.
And then Igmar asked about breaking even. I think you addressed that. You at least break even every month. This month you're only, if I heard right, you're only a couple $100 from break even, and you still have the rest of the month and a weekend, right?
Yeah, and the weekend will book out, and that will it'll probably put me over a couple $100, but this is definitely the slowest month I've seen so far, which makes sense because I looked it up, and August is a slow month for Florida.
Well, I have a couple questions that haven't been asked, but maybe are on people's minds. So, how expensive? I know, of course, I've been to Jay Massey's live class in Salt Lake City when he filmed the class initially. I was there for 3 days, and then I've taken the class since then. So I kind of know the answer, but I'm sure there's people thinking about it. You know, how much does it cost per square foot? Or how much do you, because, some people do one apartment short-term rentals, some people do 2 apartments. Most investors stay away from 3 or more because that's not the sweet spot. That's not what really books. And so, do you have a formula, or do you have roughly an idea what it costs per square foot, or how much it costs you to merchandise or get everything ready at the Tampa location? What was that fee? What was that number?
So, okay, I do. So typically the sweet spot is to furnish is around $15,000. This one just happened to come furnished, which I fell into.
Woo!
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
it was cool. So I spent very little. I mean, I think I did spend around maybe $1,200 on furnishing this, just because there was some stuff I wanted to add that wasn't there or update. Like, I got new blankets and new sheets and new towels and stuff. But otherwise the beds were there. The beds are amazing. They were actually, the owner was short-term rentaling this before I came along. So it was it was amazing. Like there's so many things that were already in place. I was like, wow, that just made it easier. But typically, so I have a couple of other short-term rentals that I've been playing with or looking at rather. And it's about $15,000 to regularly furnish one of these.
And so when you're looking at potential short-term rentals, are you looking at one apartment or 2-bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom apartment? Are you keeping in that area, like smaller units?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I like the 1-bedrooms. But this one's a 2-bedroom, but the last one I had was a 1-bedroom and I just like them. I don't know why, but yeah, so I do like the 1-bedrooms, but yeah, this one's a 2-bedroom and it's worked out fine, but I like the 1-bedrooms.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and jump into the numbers. We've got about 15 minutes left, so go ahead and run through the numbers, and then if you guys, anybody that's on, we'd love for you to type any additional questions in the chat room, and Tamara will get to those.
Sure. So the numbers, I got very kind of lucky with this one. So I got the master lease. They asked for $3,800 down. No renovations. The lease payments every month are $1,900. The utilities are around $700. Now, when I put these numbers together, it was before I started renting this out. So I can give you a little bit, I was very conservative with the cash flow. I can give you a little bit more of an idea on that. The expenses or the utilities are around $700. That's pretty accurate. I did not expect, one thing I didn't expect was the energy bill to be so high. It ends up being like typically like around $190 a month, which makes sense for Florida because of the air conditioner, but I just didn't expect that because I've never paid that much for my energy bill, but that's fine. So I still factored in an oops factor just in case I missed something like that. The internet's pretty standard. I think it's like $100 a month. And then supplies have been anywhere between $100 and $300. So that's pretty accurate for the expenses. And then, so my cash flow has varied. My best month of cash flow was about $1,000. That's after all expenses. And then this month is the first month that it's going to be a little, we'll see what it ends up being, but I think it's generally been around between $400 and $1,000 in terms of cash flow. So I'm excited because I think the next few months are supposed to be the busier months. So I'm excited to see, how that pans out. And the cool thing about this, actually, one more thing. So I actually partnered with someone in our community. And you don't really need a partner. I didn't really need a partner, but I just ended up doing it. But he covered the first month in security. So I really had almost zero money out of pocket, and it was already furnished. So I really had like almost zero money out of pocket to get this short-term rental running. Now that does mean I split the commission with him, or the cash flow with him, but whatever. I mean, I just created a stream of income with no money out of pocket. So I can't complain.
Well, you talked earlier, you talked about scaling your business, and as a real estate investor, we're always looking at scaling our business. I know I'm looking at it on a weekly basis. How do I scale my business? What steps do I need to put in place? What changes do I need to make in my infrastructure? What systems do I need to put in place or tweak? The list goes on, but scaling my business, part of where I'm going, and I think it aligns with what you're talking about here. When I want to scale my business, I want to get to a point where I'm more hands off. And short-term rentals are a great strategy to be more heads off, because you commented earlier about that I love to do flips. I really do love to do flips, but they are one of the most challenging strategies in real estate investing. And there's a saying about flips, and it's very true. You're only as good as your last flip, because once you've sold it, yes, you make this profit, but what are you doing next? You don't have that monthly income coming in. So that's why long-term and short-term rentals, that passive income, is so incredible. And you talked about scaling. I would imagine, I don't want to assume this, but when you're talking about scaling, you're probably going to scale in the Tampa area since you've already got a cleaner in place. You know the area, you know the lay of the land, you know the sites, the locations, the distances. So will it be easier on your next one to scale your business in Tampa?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, and I've been debating about this because when I started in Tampa, now I love Tampa. It really, I really enjoy it. It's just such a pleasant place to be. But so when I got this one, my intention was that I was going to be in Tampa more. But what ended up happening is it looks like I will end up for the time being, I will probably end up in South Florida a little bit more than I'll end up in the Tampa area. So, and I'm torn about this because I want to be where I'm going to be. I want to get more properties where I'm going to be. But I do have a nice little system in place now in Tampa. So I've been going back and forth about that. And I haven't completely decided. I just prefer Tampa over South Florida in general, especially to do business. That's just my personal preference. But for the time being, I'm not going to be there as much as I initially thought. So I just haven't decided yet on where I'm upscaling.
So a couple, let's look at some of these questions if we could. We've got about 8-9 minutes left. And I don't know if you can pull up the chat questions.
Sure.
So Anna, you're asking a question, how do I get in contact with Jay Massey? Well, get back to whoever invited you out today, and they can share more about what she's been referring to Jay Massey. That's the best way to do that. How does the renter's insurance work? So what do you have set up for insurance, Tamara, on your property there on this rental?
So Airbnb has a really good insurance policy that, some people choose not to get insurance. And I mean, honestly, I didn't really need it, but I did end up going with it. It was so cheap. It was like, I think it was like $12 or $20 a month. And actually, the complex that I'm in, they had one already in place, so it was pretty easy. And I think they actually required it. That's why I ended up getting it. But
yep.
Airbnb has a really good insurance policy. So some people don't get it, but my did.
Yeah, the whole platform of Airbnb, or the platform short-term rental, but the use of Airbnb or the business relationship that you create with Airbnb, they're really, and why they're so large and big, they were really the first ones to the party in short-term rentals, and they have worked it out to a T. I mean, it's like Tamara's saying, I mean, they've got it down. Can you go out and get renter's insurance for $12 a month? Possibly, but they've got all the systems in place. There's a question in here wanting to know, how much do you pay Airbnb? Well, that actually comes out of each rental, correct, Tamara? So when someone books it, what Airbnb takes for their percentage, the actual tenant or the short-term rental tenant actually is paying that amount, correct?
Airbnb covers it to a degree. Now that I remember though, this building did require that you have some kind of renter's insurance. So that was the only reason I ended up getting it.
But when someone books in your short-term rental there in Tampa, when they book through Airbnb takes their percentage right out before they even pay you.
Right. And
so you don't have to worry about paying them. They take it right out of the rentals.
And what I like they also do is they include a cleaner's fee in the booking. So like say I book out like my short-term rental for 3 nights, and let's just keep it simple, and say it's $100 a night, and I also charge a $95 fee for cleaning. They charge a person $395. So they charge a person $395. So I get that money right away for the cleaning. So the guest is charged for the cleaning right away. It makes it a lot easier.
Awesome. Let's see what other questions we have here that it says, Anna says she found this. Oh, Anna found our event today, Tamara, right from Eventbrite. So if you're not sure who reached out to you, Anna, you can find me or Tamara on Facebook, and we can help you out as well. That would be great. Austin, yeah, we talked about insurance. Like in Tampa, I know every city's different. That's another thing, guys, that, you know, I won't necessarily call it a disclaimer, but this is what you've got to know. Every city has different codes, restrictions, permits, licensing to do short-term rentals. So you got to really know your area. That's part of what goes into your decision making when you're trying to do short-term rentals. You don't want to particularly pick a city or an area that's very strict on Airbnb. Maybe they don't allow it. Maybe they have really strict requirements where you can only do Airbnb out of the property you live in, that type of thing. So you got to really know that. You got to check. You can Google that. You can go to your local government websites, different things like that. So in Tampa, was there any permits or any licensing you had to do to be a short-term rental business?
Not in this area, but it is so important. I've seen short-term rentals get shut down like overnight because they didn't check the ordinances. Like that's one thing. Again, Jay Massey in these classes really has your back because he tells you exactly what to do, right? Like, so one of the things before I signed this lease, it took me over the weekend, I had to find out what the ordinances were, meaning what their relationship is with Airbnb, because like Scott said, New York, for example, is very strict with short-term rentals. They don't like Airbnb because of all the hotels. It creates a lot of competition with the hotels, which is debatable as well. But essentially, like Philadelphia, for example, they have a great relationship with Airbnb because they like it brings in a lot more people, and Airbnb. So Airbnb did this very, very well. They did this very well with some of the relationships they created. With Philadelphia, they give them, they pay a significant amount towards the taxes. So that's why they have a great relationship with Philadelphia. I learned as I was doing the research, whereas in New York, you know, I believe that like you're going to have to get used to Airbnb and short-term rentals, whether the city likes it or not, because they've just become so popular and they're just getting more and more popular. So I think it's kind of stupid of New York to not create a good collaboration with Airbnb, because like it's like taxi cabs, like in the you know, taxi cabs and like
Uber.
Like no one liked Uber in the beginning because it took away from the cabs, but you know, it came whether people liked it or not. And I think that's what's happening or going to happen, or it's already happening with Airbnb. So New York.
Well, to add to your point, Tamara, you know, short-term rentals, again, that's your overall name. That's the platform. And then Airbnb, vacation rental by owners, HomeAway, all the different corporate housing by owners, CHBO is another one. All those fall under the platform called short-term rentals. And so over the last 5 years, obviously it has affected the hotel business.
Right.
But the hotel business has really adapted and they've become very smart. They're finding out, they have done their research, most of them, if not all of them, have done their research to find out why people want to stay at an Airbnb instead of at a hotel. Is it price? Is it location? And it boiled down to it was more like when someone went to a short-term rental, it was more like going home. It was like living in their own home, but while they were away for work or away for vacation. And so now you see all these hotel chains, if you guys have not noticed it the last 5, 6, 7 years, where they're all like Hilton is coming out with all these derivative names of hotel chains that are owned by Hilton, but they're like going into your own house when you stay there. Well, that's kind of been spurred on by the Airbnb business and the short-term rental business, is because, you know, they've seen what the customer is wanting. But to your point, Tamara, I don't see that business ever going away. And I know I've used them a ton. I mean, I haven't done anything in the last 6, 8 months, but there before COVID, I was staying average of 8 to 10 times a year in a short-term rental. And so great points. Tamara, this has been we're right at the top of the hour. This has been an awesome property tour. You have shared a lot of golden nuggets. If you could kind of leave the group uh, and the folks that are on today with a couple points, like maybe share something like one of the bumps in the road that you've come across as a real estate investor, or maybe share something like that. You know, that saying, we talk about it all the time, Tamara. You know, we just don't know what we don't know. Okay. And you really don't. I mean, I know it's an old saying, but it's so true. What could you share a couple things with everybody on today that you've either experienced and it's really helped your business, something like that? Could you do that for me?
Sure. So the bumps in the road are there's a lot of bumps in the road, but just you never know. Like, there's always going to be some kind of problem. I mean, as real estate investors, we solve problems. That is our the definition of what we do, and you just don't know what problems are going to come about. I've had some really crazy problems, mostly in my flips, that or with COVID. It's definitely presented some different challenges. But to offset that, I can't stress this enough. You don't know what you don't know. I would be lost if it wasn't for those classes, because some of the problems that have transpired through COVID, the only reason I've been able to navigate through them is because I have the support of the community, and the knowledge of those classes is priceless. Like, I don't say that lightly. And I didn't even realize when I came in and I got everything we have, which, if you haven't learned that, that's the Extreme Plus combo. You'll learn that later. It is invaluable. Because of having that knowledge at one point, but being able to navigate through the storms, I would have not been able to do it if it wasn't for having the right knowledge and the support of the community. So the best way to equip yourself is to have the right knowledge and have the support from a community. And I don't believe you'll find it anywhere else, but whether it's our community or whatever else, wherever else you find it, the community having that support is second to none. Like, I've had the support of like some of our multi-million-dollar real estate investors, just to bounce questions off them, especially navigating through all the craziness of COVID, right? So make sure you get plugged in, get the knowledge is priceless from these classes. And it's just kind of showed itself to me more and more as I've developed as a real estate investor, how much you need it. I needed it.
That's awesome, Tamara. Well, thank you for sharing it. Guys, we're getting to the end of our property tour here. We've gone a couple minutes over. Please get back to whoever invited you. There are all kinds of cool things coming up. We actually have something really neat next week, and I forgot the date. I want to say it's August 28th. And Tamara, it's Saturday, so it would be what's that date, Tamara, real quick?
The 28th.
The 28th. So I was right. The 28th. Yes. We've got a great intensive real estate workshop with Brian Sump and
Chris Wilson.
Chris
Wilson.
That's right. Thank you very much. And guys, this is going to be, whoever invited you, they can get you plugged into that. And there's no cost involved in it, but it is so powerful. Brian Sump is one of our instructors who used to be a student. He still is a student, but he started out just like I did, or like Tamara did, as a student, learning and gaining knowledge and starting our business and starting to do flips or buy and holds or short-term rentals. And Brian really got into short sales, and he is an expert on that. And he's going to be training on that. And then Chris Wilson, I'm not sure what Chris's topic is. I don't know if it's wholesaling. I don't know what topic he's going to cover, but get back to invited you, and you guys can plug into that. And we'll have another property tour again next Saturday. Next Saturday, we're going to be coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. That's my old stomping grounds. I went to high school and started my college there in St. Louis. We're going to be coming to you there with Scott Jordan, who's another one of our team investors, and he's going to be sharing his current deal. So keep joining, keep plugging in. I'm glad you guys were able to come out. Tamara, thank you very much. Look forward to our next time when we get to actually see each other besides over a Zoom or over a chat.
Yes, can't wait to see people in person.
All right, everybody have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time.
Good day, everyone.